Hello, this is Kelly Kleinman, and you are listening to the DealershipNews.com podcast, where we spotlight the who's happening in the automotive industry. It's foot soldiers, visionaries, salesmen, GMs, owners, service managers, and industry vendors alike. Our guest today is Mickey Quinn, the general manager of Vanguard Dealer Services, and we're going to get into what they have to offer here in a moment. Mickey, thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you.
So good to have you. So this is a question that I love to ask because it's pretty obvious. A lot of people just sort of fall into the automotive industry. How did you get into the car business? Was it something that you were attracted to as a lifelong interest, or was it something you just stumbled upon?
Well, it's something I fell into it's a funny story. I was working construction back in the late 80s. My wife, fiance at the time, was a hairdresser, and I went to pick her up from work, having a conversation with her while she was cutting someone's hair. I didn't realize that person was a car dealer, and when he got out of her chair, he walked over to me and he said, "Have you ever sold anything with that accent?" I said, "I have not." He said, "Well, meet me at my dealership on Monday morning at 9 a.m., and I'll teach you how to sell cars." And that was almost 30 years ago.
It's a fact that if you're in the United States and you have an Irish accent, a British accent, or an Australian accent, you're going to find a good job somewhere.
Yeah, I like to think it's my talent, but probably got more to do with my accent. So I'd use whatever I have.
Let's get into Vanguard Dealer Services. You're in an elevator. You're with the president of Toyota. You've got 20 floors to get to the top, and you've got a 30-second elevator pitch. What would it sound like for Vanguard Dealer Services?
I would tell him that we're a company who he didn't have to sell one more car to one more customer, and we can increase his profitabilities dramatically and also create customers for life. It's that simple. Without selling one more car, we can add hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, to certain groups in their revenue.
I like that. That got my ears perked. Very interesting. So before we get into the suite of services, specifically F&I products that you guys provide dealerships, what separates you from a myriad of other competitors? Is it pricing, customer service, technology, all the above?
It's a selection of all the above, but we're not an experiment. We've been doing this for 21 years now. We hire very exclusively. It's a very rigid process to come and work for Vanguard. We believe in doing all our firing at the interview. So we have a very solid team that have been with us a number of years. We have a network of people who want to come and work for our organization anytime there is room for a new spot. So we've been very successful with our talent is what it really brought us to the dance. Our people that go into the dealerships on a daily basis really understand the business and also have empathy for the employees in there. So we know at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, one of our business managers may need some help. He may have a question. He's stuck in a dealership. So every single employee of Vanguard that works in our sales division, that telephone is on to midnight every day. Yeah. And it's switched on at 7 a.m. the next morning.
How do you approach a dealership to assess their needs and then put a program in place based on that checklist?
Well, we want to take a look at what they're currently doing. We look at everything from pricing, coverages, processes, compliance, the whole gamut. And then we put a proposal. We usually have a team of 2 to 3 people in a dealership for 2 to 3 days, doing some analysis of F&I deals, compliance. We put together a comprehensive presentation, and then we go back and make a presentation to the organization.
And you break it down need by need, I would assume.
We break it down need by need, flaw by flaw, and dollar by dollar. To give you an example, a few years ago we recently did an analysis in an organization, and when we came back to them and told them that we thought they were leaving somewhere around $8 million a year on the table, they laughed at us. But the dealer principal said, if anyone tells me there's $8 million on the table, they're going to get an opportunity to find it for me. And we delivered $8.2 million the first year. So there's no question that dealership or that organization with multiple rooftops and multiple franchises are not going anywhere or doing anything in their F&I department until they speak to Vanguard.
I'm going to request ahead of time that you and your folks send me some case studies, and we're going to go ahead and put them on the site. We'll talk about that after the interview.
We can do that.
Yeah, happy. That's what you just told me is extremely interesting, to say the least. Let's talk about where we're going with online transactions. It seems to be this Amazon model that we're not going to escape. They want to buy units on the internet. Simple as that. They don't like going face to face with dealers. How is that going to affect the automotive industry moving forward?
Well, I think that we have to embrace it rather than fight it. I mean, I was in retail when the internet hit, 22 years ago, and initially we were all trained to say to the customer, well, did the internet tell you where you could buy the car? We thought we could fight it, and we realized, quickly that we couldn't. And it's the same with this process. And as an organization, we're out in front of it, and we are in the process of interviewing companies that we can bring to our dealers that have this process. And the early data that's coming back, the information that's coming back from the 3 to 4% of consumers that are using these online services, is that the F&I numbers are stronger. The product penetrations are stronger than what they are face-to-face in a dealership. So as an organization like ours, we embrace it. The only concern that I have is that obviously our dealers are going to realize that sooner or later, if the majority of their business has been done online, how much do they need a business manager? So that's a concern for us going forward. Are we going to see less talent in the business offices? Are we going to see more order takers in the business office? So, I don't know if it's a concern or not, but it's certainly what we see that's going to come down the pike. Anywhere a dealer can save money on personnel, he or she is absolutely going to do that.
So it's a trend. It's a new digital trend. I think you probably just answered part of this next question, which is how important are these new digital trends that are starting to show up in the industry more and more? And I see the same thing. I see the idea that they're possibly getting away from actually having salesmen on the floor, where they might possibly have just a concierge to take you through the test drive and then walk you into the F&I office, and that's where all the good stuff gets taken care of. What's your opinion on that? What are your thoughts?
I don't think it's imminent. I think that the business office in a car dealership is really, if a car dealership was a human body, the business office would be the heart. And I don't see dealers moving away from it that quickly, because the business office is what really is going to hold the dealership together. With the automobile holding no gross anymore, the F&I office has become tantamount not only to dealer profitability, but to the retention of the consumer or the customer. Remember, if the products sold in the F&I department are selected and done correctly, they're going to generate revenue for the dealership throughout the ownership of the car. Whereas the car itself doesn't generate any new revenue for the customer or for the dealership, but the products sold to that customer during the life of ownership generate revenue at the time of sale and also throughout the course of ownership of the car. And if we can provide products that give the customer a feel-good experience when they come back to the dealership, we're very, very confident that we can retain that customer again for repeat customer time and time again. So our focus as a company to a dealership is not just the profitability part at the time of sale. It's the profitability during the course of ownership, and also tantamount to us is getting that customer to buy another car from the dealership or to refer a family member or multiple family members to come to one of our dealerships and buy cars.
The vehicle almost becomes a lost leader just to get you in the door for F&I products.
Well, what we like to say to the dealer today is that the car itself has become the stick that the razor blade goes on, and we're the guys that are selling the razor blades.
Well, let's get into that a little bit. Car sales actually looked all right last month in May. We have the national dealership standings here, which is really a fantastic kind of a copy of the NBA standings, the Major League Baseball standings, NFL standings, whereby we have all the car dealerships calendar month sales. And we can see that, look, there's some brands that are doing better than others. Obviously, Subaru is very hot. Chevy had, a very good month. So dealers are doing pretty good. But there are certain things that they could do within F&I that can obviously lift those profits. Let's get into the second half of the year. We're coming up to it right about now. And what can dealers do in order to close out the second half with better F&I profits?
Well, I think the most important thing that a car dealer can do is realize the importance of their business office, their F&I office. I find many car dealers today focused on selling the car, sell the car, sell the car, sell the car. And a lot of times we're selling these cars at a lost profit. and we're not prepared for those customers that are coming into the business office, the F&I office. Those business managers simply aren't trained. A lot of times in a lot of the presentations we go in on, we find that many of the business offices don't have a good selection of products to offer their customer. They're somewhat pigeonholed to 3 or 4 products that a customer may or may not have a need for. Vanguard, we have somewhere between 14 and 15 different products that can be sold in an F&I office with multiple administrators. So we really take away the excuse that the business manager has, or I don't have anything to sell them. You know, we have offerings where we could sell a product on a 15-year-old Hyundai with 149,000 miles on it, or a $500,000 Rolls Royce. We have product offerings for all of that. So a dealer really has to focus in on his F&I office, realize that it is really the only department in the dealership that he doesn't have to sell another car in order to make a tremendous amount of profit. If you can think about it, most of these places that we see, there are at least $200 per car in the F&I office that's not being fulfilled or not being realized. And we have situations in organizations where we've went in, they were doing $700, $800 a car. They're currently doing $1,400 or $1,500 a car. They're not selling any more cars. They didn't have to employ any more people, but still their profitability is through the roof, just by focusing on the F&I department.
Well, let's talk about that. How does the F&I department influence the performance of the rest of a dealership?
Well, think about this. If F&I sells a service contract or a tire and wheel policy or anything else, if that customer has cause to use it, they're coming back to the service department. We have labor hours involved in that. We have parts involved in that, all paid directly to the dealer from us, full retail, parts and labor. The dealership is usually paid long before the customer leaves the facility. We pay by credit cards, so it's fantastic for a dealer.
Let's talk about servicing those dealerships. I mean, we want dealerships to service their customers, and the vendors often drop the ball in their relationships, in that particular kind of a relationship. They don't show up. They sell them their suite of services. They sell them a single service, whatever the deal is. What is your company's philosophy on servicing your client base?
So it starts with this understanding, this core belief that we have 2 purchasers of our products. We have the dealer who sells it, and then we have the end user who uses it. And our philosophy is very simple. The end user of that product is Mr. and Mrs. Joe and Jane Public. That could be our daughters, our sons, our aunts, our uncles, our mothers, our fathers, whoever. So we are very, very, very focused on the quality of the product that the end user gets to use. So everything that we would do in a dealership would have not only profitability in mind for the dealer, but also that feel-good experience for the consumer, so that when they do come back to the facility, 9 times out of 10, there are no deductibles. There are rental cars available for them. They don't have to sit around in the dealership. And they leave, come back that day. Their car is exactly the way they want it. They don't leave any money out of their pocket with us, and off they go, and everybody's happy.
We're going to find out a little bit about how, let's say you've got a crystal ball. I want to know where you think Vanguard Dealer Services is going to be in 3 years. And then also, what changes do you see coming in the industry in the near future?
Vanguard Dealer Services 3 years from now will be 2 to 3 times the size it is currently. We have an approach that no one else has seen. We're admin agnostic, which gives us the ability to pivot in any account. So multiple franchises, we have the ability to service a dealer that has a Land Rover store and a Hyundai store, knowing that a lot of the administrators don't favor the Land Rover product as much as they do the Hyundai product. We're in a position where we can offer that dealer multiple choices on any franchise that he has. So therefore, we believe our approach is what's going to catapult us in the future in more and more dealerships. In fact, our phones are ringing off the hook with presentations that are requested because of our approach. And what I see coming in the future, I see customers demanding a quicker delivery time at a dealership, meaning from the time they show up at the facility to the time they leave in their new car, we've got to reduce that by 30 to 40% in the next few years. And if we can do that at the dealership level, then I think can combat some of this internet stuff that's going on. But the idea that a consumer has to show up at a dealership, spend $50,000, and then wait 4 to 5 hours for the car to be ready for them is probably not the future for the automobile business.
Yeah. I want to ask you before we sign off here, is there anything that we've left out, any insights that you might have, anything else you'd like dealers to know about Vanguard Dealer Services?
Well, listen, Vanguard Dealer Services, we are a full-service F&I development company. We've been doing this for 20 years. We're not an experiment. Some of our clients sell 36,000 cars a year. Some of our clients sell 700 cars a year. We have a solution for all of those people. We have dealers that own Rolls-Royce franchises, and we have dealers that own multiple Kia franchises. Every one of those organizations that we do business with are more profitable after meeting us than they were before they met us.
It's interesting. We just did an interview on location at O'Gara Coach, Rolls-Royce, Bentley, Alfa Romeo, and Maserati just yesterday. Hey, Mickey, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate the time and effort, and let's stay in touch here. There's a couple things that I'd like to discuss with you moving forward, and certainly, again, I want to thank you, everybody. That is Mickey Quinn.
Thank you from Vanguard Dealer Services.
A pleasure. Mickey Quinn, the general manager of Vanguard Dealer Services. You know me, I'm Kelly Kleiman. This is dealershipnews.com. This is our podcast. Have a great day, everybody.